I was 20, lying in my dorm room, torn ACL, playing NBA 2K, ripping my dab pen for probably the 50th time. It was just another Tuesday night in Evanston, Illinois in college, when out of nowhere, for the first time in my life, an existential thought hit me. What the fuck am I doing with my life? The thought was like a flash of lightning that woke me from my numbed out, sedated state into a thought experiment that prompted me to change nearly everything in my life. But let's back up really quick. Just a few years before this moment, I had achieved everything I'd ever wanted. I got into Northwestern University, a top 10 school in the US, and was offered a spot on the football team to play wide receiver. Northwestern was my dream school. I'd fantasized about going and playing there for years. Most of my high school years were spent training and studying very hard to achieve this goal. However, once I got there, I quickly realized the experience wasn't all that I had imagined it to be. I'd envisioned myself wearing the jersey, having the Instagram bio, and playing in front of tens of thousands of people, but I hadn't fully grasped the reality of the 5 a.m. wake-ups, the incredibly hard training sessions, and the hours upon hours of meetings that are common characteristics of Division I Big Ten football. I came to realize that I was much more interested in the status symbol of being a D1 football player and the aura that came with wearing the jersey than actually going through the grind of being on the team. There were periods of intense passion, purpose, and alignment throughout the 2 years that I played, but there was also intense burnout, escapism, and injuries. I frequently oscillated between loving the experience and wishing I wasn't there. By the third or fourth week of my second year on the team, I reached a tipping point. One day at practice, when I was feeling especially burnt out, I remember thinking to myself, damn, it would kind of be nice if I actually got injured so I could just chill out and not have to do this anymore. I was quite disgusted with the thought when it came into my mind, and I tried to push it out of my mind, but it lingered, and no coincidences, an hour later, I tore my ACL and my career was over. So if that doesn't make you believe in the power of thought and manifestation, I don't know what will. After this, the next few months were brutal. I'd wake up at 4:30 a.m. to rehab my knee before crutching my way to the train station to work from 9 to 5 in the city, pretending to know Excel and copy and paste things into PowerPoints I didn't care about at a finance job. I'd then come back, smoke weed, order DoorDash, and play Xbox for 2 hours before bed, and I'd repeat the cycle 5 days a week. The weekends weren't all that exciting either. I'd pretty much play NBA 2K with my friends for 8 hours a day. Those few months were like a blur. I was in a constant cycle of avoidance and escapism. I had no direction, no goals, and no passion, and so I spent every waking hour when I wasn't rehabbing my knee, working the job, or going to class, escaping into video games, food, and weed. But funny enough, it was weed that prompted the existential thought that I mentioned earlier that catapulted me into a completely new life direction. I've had an on and off relationship with marijuana for the past few years. It started off as an innocent hobby that made playing video games with my friends more fun, but it progressed into an addiction that I used to escape from reality. I've still used it sporadically for the past few years, and at times it's actually been an incredible tool for insight, creativity, and flow state, but I haven't touched it in nearly 6 months, and I feel clearer than ever right now. Anyways, back then, it helped me dissociate, detach, and have more fun playing video games with my friends. But for some reason, maybe because I was alone that one night, it prompted me into a deep contemplation like I'd never experienced before in my life. Now, if you've ever been a smoker, you understand how weed amplifies your internal state. And if there's things that you haven't been looking at that are hidden under the surface, they will come up. It's like a psychedelic in that way, and it's actually now commonly referred to as a psychedelic. So this is what happened to me. I had a ton of questions about my life that I didn't want to look at and didn't have answers to, and so they were sitting right below the surface waiting to be looked at. Would I continue playing football at Northwestern, or would I transfer, or would I retire? Did I really want to be a consultant or finance bro after college? Was the peak of my life really at 18 years old? Was everything really downhill after high school and college like people said? Was I going to spend the rest of my life escaping into video games and Ben & Jerry's? All those questions compounded into that existential vision on that cold December night in my dorm room. In that vision, I saw myself at 50 years old. I saw who I'd become if I kept walking the same path that I was on. It wasn't a pretty sight. Forgive me if you've already heard me tell the story, but basically I saw myself as a 50-year-old man, fat, ugly, out of shape, disassociated, deeply unconscious, and in a hometown bar near my high school talking about how we should have won the state championship back in 2017. That vision scared the shit out of me. I had never thought about my life on such a long-term time horizon until that moment. I saw myself becoming average, a washed-up version of myself, someone who'd given up on his potential, and it disgusted me. The weed probably had something to do with my mind expanding to this place that I'd never gone before. Now, I say this and I don't condemn anybody who is average or is okay settling for average. It's each person's choice of how they want to live their life. But speaking purely for myself, there has always been something within me that has been repelled by the idea of average or normal. I've always liked to excel in whatever I do, be it school or sports. And while most of my high school teammates were okay with just playing on Friday nights, I was obsessed with the idea of playing at the next level. Even as a younger kid in school, I wanted to get the highest scores on all the standardized tests and get put into the top classes, even though I didn't really like school. I can't explain it, it's just something within my nature, and probably yours too if you're listening to this video. As I saw myself as regressing into this mediocre shadow of myself, it was in that moment that I knew something had to change. I didn't magically transform my life overnight after that vision, but I began to take small steps that compounded into completely transforming my psyche and reality a few years later. I can see now, looking back, that the existential vision that I had was probably the first glimpse of any spiritual awakening that I had. It was an ego death in some ways. The thought that I was wasting my life away propelled me in the opposite direction toward creating a life that I actually wanted and becoming the type of person I wanted to be. After that moment, once I felt and accepted that deep fear, I started to actually enjoy thinking deeply about my life instead of running away from it. If I could zoom out and see what I didn't want 50 years from now, that could also mean I could imagine what I did want, even though I had a very limited perspective on what that was at the time. And so I started taking very small steps towards change. I began journaling, reading, meditating. I started going to therapy. I became obsessed with listening to podcasts about physical health, mental health, neuroscience, and psychology. Jordan Peterson, Andrew Huberman, and Vishen Lakhiani became my best friends. A few months later, I tried psilocybin mushrooms after hearing Aaron Rodgers and Pat McAfee talk about them in a mental health context on a podcast. That first 4-hour mushroom journey changed everything for me. It's still one of the most important moments in my life. I realized I could be anyone and anything that I desired. I realized the scope of my potential was much broader than a football player or a finance bro. For the first time since I was 5 years old, I even dreamt of being a writer. A few weeks after that journey, I retired from the football team. I switched my major to psychology and I began spending my days writing, reading, journaling, going to class, working out, listening to podcasts, and smoking joints while walking around campus, appreciating the beautiful architecture and nature, and thinking deeply about life. That summer, I went and backpacked Europe with my best friend instead of taking a finance internship. On that adventure, I started writing a newsletter to 8 people, which is the same newsletter that I originally wrote this podcast for, that now has 3,600 readers a few years later. That sent me down a rabbit hole of online business and the creator economy, and I left school about 6 months later to do this thing full-time as a ghostwriter and writer. The rest of the story is beyond the scope of this podcast, but the point of this story is that I went from a lost 20-year-old college kid to creating a life of my choosing, expressing myself for a living, and living deeply in my soul's purpose. And it was all set into motion by one existential thought that I was wasting my life away. Now, you have to understand, most people are unconscious. Most people are unconsciously wasting their lives away, as I was back in 2021. But they have no idea because they never actually sit down to think about who they are, what they want, who they want to be, and where they'll end up if they continue walking the same path that they're on. Misaligned work, numbing and escapism, a glimpse of excitement when your sports team wins or you get a promotion. This is the average existence for most Americans. It is scarily the American dream. And for most, this cycle is repeated unconsciously for decades. There is rarely a genuine contemplative or questioning thought about whether there could be more to life. Besides, everybody else is doing it, it's just normal. But I don't know about you, but I fucking despise normal. Not in others, but at the thought of becoming it myself. I've always had dreams and goals, and now that I've tasted the vast possibilities of life after this journey in this space, I see that everyone, including myself, is capable of living out their own adventure and living a life of extraordinary purpose and meaning. That desire to become extraordinary, to live a dream life, and to actualize your potential lies dormant within everyone. And it can be activated in anyone, but only for those who are willing to really look. The moment you step into your own adventure often begins as an existential thought that you're wasting your life away, just like it was for me. This first dark night of the soul is in fact the catalyst for massive transformation. This is your soul crying out for adventure and activating the energy and courage within you to go create the life that you truly desire. So now let's talk about your cry or call for adventure. The hero's journey is an archetypal blueprint for transformation. It's most commonly known through the Odyssey and Odysseus' journey, but the pattern of the hero, like leaving home, facing trials, transforming, and returning a changed person, has been seen across cultures, history, myths, and stories for centuries. Buddha, Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Savitri, Harry Potter, Frodo Baggins, Katniss Everdeen, Mulan, Luke Skywalker, Simba, Neo, I could go on and on. They all go through a similar hero's journey arc in their story. They are stuck in the ordinary world. Then they have a call to adventure. They resist the calling. Then they surrender to it, face trials, meet allies and enemies, and die to their old selves before transforming into a fuller, more expanded person. You can run any of your favorite characters, prophets, or heroes through this journey, through this chart, and I'll attach a picture of the chart in the description. And you'll see a similar theme play out. This archetypal transformation journey is a blueprint for our own evolution. We resonate with these stories so deeply because they speak to something deep within ourselves. They speak to our souls. The courage, adventures, and trials stir up the desire and knowingness that we too are meant for more than just the ordinary world. Now, most people are stuck in phase 1, the ordinary world. Every day is the same. They wake up and go through the motions. They have no mission, pursuit, or journey or quest, and they come home at night and numb themselves and repeat it every single day. Now, the feeling that you're wasting your life away arises because you're spending too much time in the ordinary world. You're too comfortable, you're too complacent, and your soul starts speaking to you in the form of disgust, anger, and existential dread. These emotions are usually perceived as negative, but they are actually higher levels of energy, noting the map of consciousness, than apathy or grief, and so they serve the function of actually getting you moving. Your job is to alchemize the negative energy into positive motion. This is the call to adventure. Disgust and anger are your soul crying out for more, but when we feel them, we usually don't know what to do or where to turn. Yes, we know we feel stuck, but where do we go? I cannot tell you where to go. I cannot tell you what your adventure will be, but everybody is born on Earth with a unique adventure to live out. Your soul has a unique mission to complete in this lifetime, and all I can do is give you prompts and guidelines to help you discover the answer within yourself. So this is what we're going to do together now. Identifying your adventure. My adventure has constantly evolved over the past few years. It started off as the existential crisis in my dorm room in college that led me to therapy and personal development work. That led to me retiring from football, which led to the idea of traveling Europe instead of working an internship, which birthed the idea of finding a way to make money online and avoid a 9-to-5 job. Then, making money online through the creator economy evolved into helping others do the same, and that call to service deepened into serving people more internally and spiritually. One step on my adventure always led to the next, which was broader and grander than the last. I couldn't have conceived the depth of purpose behind why I'm writing online now than when I began. But when you're walking your own unique path, it leads you to a place you couldn't have ever expected. This is why it's unknown and can only be walked one step at a time. Your adventure will evolve as you walk the path. You have to walk with faith and courage. You have to become okay with not knowing where the path is leading. It's unlikely that you'll sit down in one meditation session and know your life's purpose. It's more likely that you'll be hit with one insight on what to do next, which will lead to the next revelation, which will lead to the next. As you walk the path, the mission reveals itself to you, but it's highly unlikely to ever connect to the mission if you aren't walking. Now, I want to help you find your next step within yourself. I'm not going to tell you what the adventure will be for you because only you know, and truthfully, a deeper part of you already knows. You just have to create the space for the idea to emerge and encapsulate your entire being. So let's talk about actionable, practical steps at how to actually do this. Step 1 is cut out BS, cut out bullshit. The first step to connecting to your calling is cutting out everything that's clogging your mind. TikTok, the news, Nick Fuentes, Sneeko, Tucker Carlson, Instagram Reels, Snapchat streaks, fantasy football, high school group chats. These are not serving you in any way. Reality transurfing would call these things pendulums or multi-person entities that feed on the energy of unconscious participants within that structure. I'd really recommend reading that book, by the way, Reality Transurfing. It is impossible to think clearly and create your own path when you're drowning in a pendulum like these. I'm sorry to say it, but global politics, 30-second reels, and constant messages in group chats with your high school friends are not benefiting you. In moderation, sure, but if you're trying to unfuck your life and figure out why the hell you're walking this earth and what you want to do with your limited time here, you've got to cut it out for a bit and reconnect to yourself. You need to create space in your mind and your life to actually think about what matters. Try cutting out everything inessential for a week. Unfollow everybody on social media and start with a fresh algorithm. That's another thing I did in the beginning, which was very powerful. And remember, you will survive if you don't reply to your high school group chat for a week. I promise. I know it seems scary, but you're going to be okay. And you might just realize how much that group chat is actually rotting your mind. Step 2 is consume no more outside information. More information won't help you find the answer that's lying dormant within your heart and soul. Rather, the opposite is true. Tuning out the world and tuning into yourself for a period of time is the answer that you're looking for. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable, but this is finding your life's calling that we're talking about, and I would say that's definitely worth it. So turn off the podcast and listen to the podcast going on inside your head, including this one, but just subscribe so you get more future episodes. Turn off the YouTube video and record your own stream of consciousness video, retracing the story of your life and talk through your own journey and your own next steps. Stop reading newsletters and brain dump journal everything going on in your life, but still subscribe to my Substack for future articles, link in the description. It will even help you to turn off the music with lyrics and just listen to lyricless frequencies or mixes that force you to listen to your thoughts going inside your head and actually get you into a higher vibrational state. If you're looking for frequencies or music, I actually have a bunch of playlists. I'm going to link them in the description. I have like a techno playlist, a side trance playlist, which is like very high frequency, stimulating music, just pure frequencies, different hertz, different tones, and more spiritual frequencies called angelic frequencies. So I'll link those below. Okay, step 3, brain dump or record a stream of consciousness voice note. To declutter your mind, you need to start clearing out old junk for space to allow new ideas to emerge. My 2 favorite ways to do this are either to brain dump journal into my computer usually, or sometimes on paper, or record a long voice note talking to myself in voice memos on my iPhone while I'm walking or driving. Now, when you do this, don't be self-critical, don't overthink what you should write or say. Simply let whatever is present for you come out. Ramble until you feel clear. By the end of it, your mind will be much more ordered. You'll have the clarity and space to think about what you want in life. You'll be able to identify the first step to actualize that vision. Step 4 is sit with yourself for an hour. Now I'm gonna list all these steps below as well in the description, so you don't have to remember them, and you can just have them as bullet points. But they're all good tools to find clarity and reconnect to your mission. So step 4 is sit with yourself for an hour. Some of the simplest but most profound advice I'd ever seen on getting clarity is to literally stare at your wall for an hour. This is essentially forced contemplation. I remember doing this back in 2023, and the next day I actually dropped out of college. But the point is, doing this forces you to think deeply in a way that's uncommon in the modern world because of the amount of instant gratification and cheap dopamine at our fingertips. I always find it interesting to think that our ancestors, for all of human history, would spend hours a day just sitting with their thoughts. With no TV to watch or TikTok to scroll, they would instead sit on the porch and look out over the landscape or watch the sunset, or lie down in the grass and gaze at the moon. Doesn't this sound quite peaceful? To our souls it does, but to our monkey minds it sounds terrifying. Now here's the truth. Your monkey mind is why you don't have clarity on your life's purpose and your next steps. You're too busy jumping from one source of dopamine to the next to ever think deeply enough to arrive at a real life-changing insight. The soul never has space to come through when the mind is constantly occupied by constant gratification. The wall staring exercise is essentially a dopamine fast for your monkey mind. You, or your higher self, your soul, your awareness, are starving him out, the monkey mind, so your deeper inner knowing and wisdom can come through. Try it, and I guarantee that something interesting will come through for you. Step 5, guided meditations. I love guided meditations. Yes, sitting in solitude with yourself can be incredibly powerful and you should do it, but having somebody guide you in your body and in your imagination to clarity can help you narrow in your focus and your awareness on a specific outcome or question rather than just open contemplation, which can leave your mind going in a million different directions. I would recommend looking up some clarity meditations on YouTube or looking into people like Frederick Dodson or Joe Dispenza for some really powerful reality creation and manifestation exercises. And I also have a handful of free guided meditations on YouTube under a playlist, which I will link in the description as well, called Guided Meditations. And I have more exclusive ones, more high-level ones in the Transcendence School community, which you can check out again at the link below. Step 6. Identify the old self and transcend him. The hero's journey is an internal one. The journey appears as happening externally, with many adventures and challenges along the way, but in reality the transformation happens within. The external events are merely the catalyst for the alchemy of the hero's psychology, from boy to man, from prince to king, from employee to entrepreneur, or from wanderer to prophet. To step into your calling and live it daily, a similar inner alchemy must take place within your own psyche. The old self, or the inner child, the part of you who is small, scared, and comfortable, must be integrated and transcended into the higher self. Unless you identify the old self's tendencies, character traits, habits, limiting beliefs, and subconscious patterns, he will continue to manifest in your life as missed opportunities, self-sabotage, and stagnation. When you integrate and transcend the old self into the new self, you step into the fullest expression of your power and transform into the type of person who lives out his calling. So here are a few ways to recognize your old self, but each will take a little bit of work, as this does. The first way is to write a letter to your inner child. Let him or her tell you all his fears and desires. Consult him now from the perspective of your higher self. Now, when those same desires and fears arise in your present life, recognize that those are actually the fears of your inner child and consult him in real time from the same higher self's perspective. The second way is to identify limiting beliefs. So write down your desires, what do you want, and search your mind for the limiting beliefs that are preventing you from actualizing them. You want to make 10K a month. What are all the limiting beliefs? Okay, I don't have time. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have skills. I don't know how to sell. I'm too young, whatever it is. And after you find those limiting beliefs, ask yourself the following questions. And this is from Byron Katie's exercise called The Work. Is this true? Yes or no? If you think it's true, can you absolutely know that this is true? Is it absolutely true that you're too young? Is it absolutely true that you are not skilled enough? Is it absolutely true that you don't have time? What emotions are present when you choose to believe that thought? They probably are limiting. Then, who would you be without that thought? This is how you step into a higher frequency. This is how you step into your power. And then you repeat that process, those questions, for all your limiting beliefs. So if you want, you pause this, write those questions down. Is this true? Can I absolutely know this is true? What emotions are present when I believe that this is true? And who would I believe without that belief? Who would I be without that belief? The third way to recognize the old self is to track and analyze your dreams. Your dreams reveal patterns of subconscious psychological tendencies. So journal about them and use AI as a dream analyst to decipher the symbolic meaning so you can note patterns and transcend them. Through these exercises, constant self-awareness and self-inquiry, you will be able to identify the old self in real time, see through the illusions of fear, transcend them, and step into the energy of your new higher self. Now, step 7. Connect to the idea that most inspires you. In the quantum field, parallel universes exist. Infinite parallel realities exist. With each decision and choice in the present moment, reality splits into an alternative timeline. If you make good choices, you live a good life. If you make bad choices, you live a bad life. This is overly simplistic, but it illustrates the point. If you're in the manifestation or esoteric space, you may have heard of the idea of a highest timeline. This is the path where you accomplish all your dreams, live in a state of bliss, and fulfill your soul's purpose. So how can we walk the path of this highest timeline? The path of your highest timeline is walked by following your highest excitement in each moment. Put simply, following your inspiration in each moment leads to a string of moments that, put together, appear as your dream life. If you get excited about one small idea, don't minimize or overlook it. Act on it. Even if it seems insignificant or you can't see where it leads, that idea is the seed of a larger idea that you can't see yet. Trust that the idea has purpose and is leading you in the right direction. For example, one idea to write a tweet could lead to a newsletter, which leads to a book, which becomes a bestseller, which allows you to be a full-time writer and express yourself to the world for a living. This idea that started off as seemingly trivial, writing a tweet, was actually the catalyst for an entire new life path. If you don't know where an idea will lead you, all you can do is listen to the ideas that come through and the excitement that you feel in your body, act on them, and trust that they will piece together down the line. This is the essence of walking by faith and not sight. The last point here, point 8, is get up an hour earlier to work on your vision. An hour of space just for yourself before the world can grab at your attention is the most valuable time of your day. This hour could be the time to work on your body, a book, a creative project, a business, or your internal world. It should be kept and treated as sacred. Even if you don't know what to work on, getting up an hour earlier to meditate, journal, or walk will give your mind and spirit the space to discover the clarity hidden within you for how to use that hour. So put your phone on airplane mode before you go to sleep and don't let anybody in until you've spent an hour working on yourself or something of your choosing. The effects of how this hour will compound over time cannot be understated. So now we're going to sum this up and talk about how you actually stay connected to your calling once you find it. Simply, you feel best when you have clarity on your mission. You feel worst when you lack clarity, act without intention, and drift aimlessly into mediocrity. It's really simple. The more you live in alignment with your calling, the better you feel. The thought, "Am I wasting my life?" cannot arise when you're living in your own adventure. But how do you stay there? The reality is that you will come in and out of connection to your calling all throughout your life, and even throughout your day. Some days you'll feel incredibly focused, energized, aligned, and in the flow of life. Other days you'll feel scattered, confused, lost, and stuck. This is just the nature of being human. The key is being able to reconnect to your calling when you lose sight of it. To reconnect to your calling, we need baseline tools and practices to help us get back in that state. And all that we just discussed in this podcast will help. And I'm going to run through those tips again right now. Step 1, cut out outside noise. Cut out the bullshit. Step 2, let go of thinking that you need more information. You don't. You need solitude and space for yourself to think and process. 3, brain dump journal or stream of consciousness voice note. Step 4, sit in silence. Step 5, do guided meditations. Step 6, identify the old self's patterns through shadow work, like we talked about. What we talked about is basically shadow work. Connect to the idea that most inspires you. Get up an hour earlier to work on your passion. Personally, guided meditations are my go-to tool to get back into the frequency of clarity and inspiration, and breath work is also great. Shout out my friends Nick and Jack Sweeney. Check out Coherence. My go-to guided meditation is actually on my YouTube channel here, and it's called Connect to Your Calling. I'll link it below. You can access more private guided meditations and breathwork sequences in Transcendence as well, which is linked below. So experiment and find the best practices that work best for you. Maintain constant awareness of your internal state. And when you find yourself out of the flow of your mission, return to your toolbox of practices and let them guide you to clarity, presence, and action. So thank you for listening. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your energy. Subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube for more of these videos. And I will see you in the next video. But real quick before we hop off, a few things to tell you about. 1, I'm hosting a Thailand adventure, a Thailand expedition in March 2026. Last year was incredible. You can check out some of the people's reviews on the website, and you can join at an early bird discount for $1,000 off right now through December 1st. The link is in the description. Also going to be running a flash sale with a bigger discount over the Black Friday weekend, just to keep that in your awareness. And it's a co-ed retreat, by the way. Second is I have a school community in addition to Transcendence called Conscious Creator. And this is going to help you create a creator business and a life of freedom through the internet in an aligned way with your spirit, with your soul's destiny, with your highest calling. So check that out. And if you want to work with me and my team personally to scale your creator business, I have another program called the Creator Accelerator, which is a 3-month intensive, intimate program to help you scale your creator business to 5, 10, 20K plus per month. So you can check out all those links in the description. If any of them are interesting to you, would love to work with you. And thank you for listening. See you in the next video.